Hey, good morning. I said I was going to do a video walkthrough of the new basins. So this is at the secret garden. This is like the very end of it where it stops. It kind of becomes nothing, and there's like a little bit of rocking going on here. So, but this right here, you can see the basins and stuff going up through there, right through here was just a big scar. This was rough and rowdy and had a big scar going right down to the middle of it, a head cut. And so, and these trees here have these big wells around them now. You can see how, try to get down low so you can see it's a big, level, horizontal, kind of a crescent shapes that always cut up against the hillside. This one has not gotten done yet because there's not enough rock. This one shows a little better. You can see some of the, I had to get the elevation with the rock work and then grade it in. And so the tree's got a flat surface around the bottom of it. Around in here is more flat so that it allows water to slow down and settle in, because if you have bowls around them like this, it just gives you a little bit of water capacity and they dump out. So this swell comes from all the way over here. That's where the rock work starts, and it curves around the backside here, and it comes all the way up to here. So there's a huge area that's getting grabbed. It's 15 feet wide. That's going to grab all the water and funnel it right down into a big space that's that big in the bottom of that tree where it's flat, where it won't rush in. It comes down and slows down and then sinks in to give this tree and then the trees. And then we took the mulch, which was from this very large mature tree here. Has a bunch of leaf litter underneath of it. So I just raked it up and started putting it underneath the basins. And so I'll go back to the top and work the way down because that's how I built it. So this was the head cut. This is where the scar was. It was right through here. And so this is kind of the top of the system right here. This has got a little bit of a grade to it coming down this way, but not much, and there's a lot of stuff in it. There's a lot of plants and sticks and the holes from the ground squirrels. So lots of things to stop water there. But here is where the slope starts to increase and it starts to pick up speed. So what I like to do is I just start at the very top and just start grabbing the water everywhere I can. So the idea is if you keep the water from getting enough volume built up to actually make it down the thing by catching it all the way down in a bunch of places, you don't get that flooding action. And so I always work around plants that are there if I can. So this tree here, which is some type of, I don't know, I think an acacia or something. I'm not a great plant identification person. So I built this basin here. It goes all the way around to the other side of the bottom of that tree through here, and it's got a couple inches elevation. Kind of hard to see, maybe. And you can see there's that little bitty berm. So it's just about 8 inches deep, maybe, something like that. Put some mulch in it. Helps hold the water, gives bacteria and fungus a place to live so that because they have amazing water retention capacity. And then send it to the base of the tree. Because the tree has an established root network that's going underneath that's going to help sink all the water in faster. So if water does come rushing down here, instead of just sitting in a puddle, it actually is going to start sinking in as it's flowing, because the infiltration rate can actually be pretty fast, especially in sandy soil like this. Same thing with all this cacti here, because they've got root stuff going on to help quickly suck up water. And then the water would come and wash over and then come back down the middle channel. And then there was this little bitty little cutie pie. Look how little he is. And it was covered in a bunch of these sticks and stuff. So I exhumed him and built this basin here, this berm, gave him some mulch, gave him a nice big holding capacity, so a lot of water going to that little bitty guy. So hopefully he grabs a couple gallons when there's a rain event. And then as I graded it out, I keep all the gravel from my raking and I use it to like reinforce all this area down in here, because that's where like the steepest run part is. Little experiments in micro water stopping. And then there's the first real little rock work basin here. So now we're down inside the swale. You can see the swale's like, yay. And so you gotta have kind of a smile where it's up on one side and it goes up higher on this side over here. Because that, if you don't, the water wants to go out and around and then it cuts into the dirt. So you have to make it where the water spills out here and here, you know, over this part of the water. And so the idea here is that on the back side, let me get out of my own shadow. On the back side of this rockwork here, it actually goes down. And then it's flat for a while until it starts to go back up this hill. And then these sticks and stuff, of course, all came from just over here. Crunched it up, raked it together, took out the big sticks and plopped it in here to get kind of a finer mulch. And it will grab sticks and twigs and leaves and anything that's caught in the water flow, any of the micro debris and that kind of stuff will caught it, and it actually starts to build more of a soil layer. And then hopefully seeds catch, starts to maybe some grasses or some wildflowers that can handle being out in an open exposed area like this with no shade, because it is just under the sun right there. And yeah, and then ultimately it would actually fill in. And if you were trying to go through and heal the whole cut, you could come back later and actually, because if this is all here filled into this level, you come in and then you can just add another layer of rock. And then you have another, and you start to build the terracing up until the whole hillside is stabilized. Okay? And so, got the water coming down in kind of a serpentine, sloshy thing that comes around and does some stuff, always slowing, spreading, and sinking the water, slowing it down because the velocity is what gives erosion, you know, so you have to slow it down. A lot of water doesn't erode anything if it's not moving, it just sits there, so you have to slow it. And again, here's a gravel. Save all the little chunky stuff to put in there because that's where the water is going to maybe get the most speed, so you protect it. And then instead of the water was originally coming down the cut, Ike, and then going all the way out through there and cutting into the trail. You can see it went on the other side of the Palo Verde right there. And so what I've done now is I've taken it all, and on this side there's this just opportunity of scrubby, sticky, leftover bunch of nasty, gnarly stuff, but it has a lot of great grabbing capacity for snagging stuff. So I've made all of these basins. This one, this one, this one, and this one all overflow. Instead of going all out one direction here, they all now catch water and then send it out over that hill, which is flatter, smoother, and it's got a bunch of detritus on it, so it'll slow down the water and hopefully sink it into the hillside there, because it was just eaten right into the bank. And then here there was like a beginning of a trail. It was two stripes of rock that went, like, you know, like somebody had started to make a trail that was going to go up around and curve like this. But when you send it, you know, rocks side by side right up the side of a hill, it gives a place the water to gather, increases velocity, and it immediately starts, so it creates a head cut. And so there's a cut coming through here. You can kind of see maybe the remnants of the gravels on top where the head cut was. So I took all that rock out and harvested it and used it to build these basins here, primarily this one, and then regraded this out. And instead of worrying about the water that's coming down it now, I created micro swales in here. This one that comes up from this tree, and then this guy here also is another swale. So anything that's coming this way that was going to come down and come down this thing right here, now it can't even go there, right? So, and then this one comes down here, makes the edge of the trail, because you got to like make it cute, because if it ain't cute, the chicks won't dig it. So it's got to be aesthetically pleasing too, right? Which is the idea. So we end up with this system of basins where there was just a head cut and an abandoned, abused, it's not, well, it is abandoned and this side is abused. This is the side that's been, you know, the garden side. And he's done such an amazing job over there. I don't know who he is, the mystery person who created the garden. But that there was, there was not an intention for rainwater harvesting or repair. It stitched into his design. It was an artistic expression, which is awesome, and I absolutely love it. So, but my intention is to then start from where he left off on this side, and I can work my way down through all of this. There's this big gnarly place right here that's all eroded on the side of the hill. I'd have to figure out how to get rock and trails and stuff that go up through there that I could start doing similar, something like a continued art project, but then incorporate it with the rainwater harvesting. Yeah, so that's yeah, that's pretty much it for this system. The last thing to do, which I didn't because I was exhausted, I did all of this with just rakes. I had a hard rake and a leaf rake. I didn't have a shovel. So I literally, like, to dig, I just scratched down and raked it out. Luckily, it's a sandy river bottom, and it was actually really, really enjoyable. This project took, how long was I over here? It must have been about 4 hours, maybe 4 or 5 hours. And I mean, and I'm pretty quick at it because I've figured out how to, like, sight it pretty quickly. But, like, I mean, one guy in 4 hours to take one head cut, but now it is a 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5, 6 trees that are involved in a system that's now going to catch the water and hopefully, you know, heal this, because this was a barren side. Somebody used this as a road or an access at some point down through the wash. And so that's obviously where, you know, the erosion happens the most, where the plants aren't there, because you don't have plants, you don't have soil holding it in place. So it goes there. Yeah, so cool. So next thing, yeah, the next project is this guy. This tree needs a big, I mean, it's going to need a retaining wall that is, I don't know, it looks like it's going to have to be at least 18 inches tall or something, so that we don't impede, so that we actually manage this bank side here. This bank is pretty steep, actually. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's quite a bit of drop off, actually. So, because I mean, if you piled soil there, it would just slump off. So you have to rock it in. And then because there's flow that comes down here every once in a while, this is the edge of the flow profile where the water comes in right here. So I've got a little bit of a pickup right here, which is cool. And my camera just did some weird light thing, and I don't know why it did that. Yeah, so what I'm thinking about doing is I'm gonna take this wall and then give it like a cool, like a teardrop swoop into the edge back up over here, so that when we ever do get water flow, it'll be designed so that as the water comes down, because the water's wanting to go this way towards this bank, which is the cut bank, and ideally, I mean, if you can steer water in a river bottom, that if you can get it away from the cut bank and start pushing it back towards the other side, right? Because it's going to continue to erode. That big heavy spot back there is going to continue to eat back into that wall. So if right here you create bump outs, or even like little fins that go out that way, that start directing that water so it starts to work its course and eat its way that way, because then you can get that sinuous nature that while the wash is running also slows and sinks the water, because the washes are the closest access point to the aquifer for natural infiltration. There's sandy bottoms at the base of the hill, you know, and so it's a super important, actually, especially for an area like Tucson that has shallow water that is, you know, that's actively filled, you know, by the monsoons here. It's not these ancient deep aquifers. I mean, it is. Actually, I don't know much. I have to call that shit out. I don't know anything about any of that stuff. But I know that if we don't infiltrate water, the aquifer dries up. And if we infiltrate water, we can actually make a difference in it. Like, you can see the level go up and down based off of what we're doing. And so these washes are absolutely sacred to this ecosystem. And you can just see how big this cut is right here. And that's, I mean, there's too much water that's coming down through here, because it's all comes from a giant storm drain that's up at the top of the, I tell you what, I'm gonna stop this because it's got the tour on it, and then I'll start it again.